We're still a little bit here before the start of the hour, but lovely to meet you. And again, I'll kick things off here at 9 a.m. Pacific. Hello there, Randall, and good evening. Terrific. Looks like we're all over the place, which I love to see. I think some of us probably met at TCA Austin just this last week. So if I met you there, hello again. If this is our first time meeting, good to meet you. To kick things off, this is a Padlet Academy session. We've started doing these on sort of a weekly basis just to introduce topics about Padlet that some of our folks may not know about. This particular session, I'll talk a little bit about what Padlet is, but what we're going to be focusing on specifically is Padlet for schools. So Padlet obviously is a digital collaboration software, and it is often used in an educational context. With that in mind, we have a product designed around the specific needs of education. Those needs are integrating it within an existing technical tool suite so that it's not just a one-off product that teachers are also using. It will actually be part of a core suite of tools, whether that's your rostering database, your LMS, in addition to some additional user management functionalities that better suit a school's need case. So I'm co-hosted here by Tosh. You may have seen him from other sessions or also at TCEA Austin. I highly encourage you to ask your questions in the Zoom chat. We will have a portion at the end for Q&A if you just want to drill me a little bit deeper on a particular topic, but feel free to type your questions in as we go, and Tosh will be replying. Okay, so again, I expect most people here are pretty familiar with Padlet, but a quick recap of what it is. It's a digital collaboration board. It can be a lot of different things. It can be for presentations. It can be for synchronous or asynchronous discussion boards. It's a way for you to present materials to a wide array of audiences and allow them to participate, view, and discuss it in real time. It is very flexible in format. We support over 100 different file types, and this includes things like AI integrations, direct file uploads, and a lot of web search functionality as well. So the beautiful thing to me about Padlet is that when you present a topic for conversation, folks are able to respond to it in a format that feels like their own voice. It's a simple idea, but one that I find pretty powerful. A couple of examples of how Padlet can be used in different contexts. This is our About Us page. We use it as a company directory. So we talk about ourselves, give each other fun little facts, and introduce ourselves. This is padlet.com/about us. You're welcome to look us up. Another slightly more educational use case is for these mind mapping sort of homework activities. So this is one that we find kind of fun. It's a forensic murder mystery. There's some key pieces of information here that the students need to follow along on. And depending on how they follow the flow and solve these assignments, they'll arrive at one of a few conclusions for who done it. Another example here, a pretty popular one, is as a classroom syllabus. Sections are something that you can use to array a Padlet with a little bit more organizational logic than just a standard bulletin board. And here what we see, it goes very far off screen, is a day-by-day syllabus for this class. And again, you can see that even within this view, there's an array of different materials. We have uploaded PDFs, we have embedded YouTube videos. It is very, very flexible in format, and that makes it a rich viewing experience. So to introduce ourselves, I'll let Tosh go first. Tosh, you want to take it away?
Hey everyone, I'm Tosh. I'm from the member services team. I've been at Padlet for 3 years from Oakland, and I live in SF here in our SF office right now, actually. I love food, playing golf, and taking long walks. So put your questions in the chat and it'll be me who's responding to them. So thank you all for joining.
Terrific. I'll go next. I'm the customer success team manager. I've also been at Padlet here for about 3 years. Actually, Tosh and I had the same start date, believe it or not. Classical guitar enthusiast. I've been frequently labeled as having strong dad energy. I think I'm proud of that. And I'm an uncle to a now walking 1-year-old. She made it up on top of the stove the other week. She pulled a chair over. And then enthusiast for all human interfacing tech. I find it fascinating how these things can make us more efficient and free up more creative space for innovating rather than some of the mundanities of just doing the work. Okay, so our plan for today, we're going to cover a few different things. Again, Padlet for Schools is a little bit different from what a lot of you may be used to using. We'll talk about some of those school-specific features, and then we'll help you ask the question, is Padlet for Schools the right choice for you and your school? We'll wrap it up with a little bit of Q&A, and then we have a feedback form at the end. We are pretty new at doing these webinars. We are committed to meeting people, interfacing a little bit more regularly, and so your feedback is important. Okay, so again, ask your questions as we go. Tosh here is monitoring that chat. Oops, sorry, I'm actually skipping ahead of myself. Where we want to go next is this. Alrighty, so this is Padlet for Schools. This is going to look very, very familiar to you, but I want to draw your attention up here to this URL bar. I'm actually not at Padlet.com. Whether you're already using Padlet for Schools or just exploring it for the first time, this is a very important thing to note. This is my own Scholastic ecosystem. The main website is moderated by us. It is very safe to use, but it is shared with 84 and checking the board over there, 84.5 million people across the globe. And so to us here at Padlet, all of those users are users. They're subject to our terms of service. They're able to use it in any way that we consider safe, but the school does not tell us what that means. A Padlet for School environment is not shared by anyone outside who your administrators permit access. And as I already mentioned, that can be done a number of different ways, whether with an existing LMS, rostering service, or just simple single sign-on experience. You control access. And so the only people with whom you cohabitate this space are classmates and teachers. It's a really, really important concept. The access will be a little bit different because, again, it's not Padlet.com. So what does it mean if you already have a Padlet.com account? You've been using this in a personal capacity, not yet owned by the school. Well, there's a really seamless experience for that. One of the first things that you'll see when you accept an invitation from a school administrator to join an account like this is an import flow. You can come back to it at any time if you ever need to. The icon is found right here within your settings, but it is this screen. We'll take a small moment here, so I'll just let this load. I've got a lot of Padlets in my personal account, but you'll have the opportunity to import all of your existing materials into this account. You don't sacrifice any work. It is very, very seamless. And then once those materials are in this account, you can define again who can access them. I'll talk about user permissions in a bit, but by and large, unless you have a specific activity where you want anonymity, you will no longer see anonymous users on these Padlets. If you've been in the habit of having your students sign their names on their work, that will no longer be necessary here because all of the students can have free accounts as well. We don't charge for the student licenses. We consider it better for everyone when the students are accountable for the things that they're doing, and restricting access to these teacher-created spaces means that you don't have the risk of a student maybe sharing your Padlet with a friend at another school and cross-collaborating outside of your classroom. That's not our intent. I doubt it's your intent either. Okay, so once you have imported your materials into this new school-owned environment, if you are an administrator or a teacher who's been given user management functionality, really depends on maybe the size of your school, the size of your district, and the aesthetic preferences of your administrators, you'll have access to a people management tool. Again, within this account, Padlet is no longer deciding who these users are. You are. And so in that, you can begin to define roles for each individual. There are 3 roles in the account. Technically 4, the owner here is just another administrator, the original administrator. So you have admins, you have teachers, and you have students, and you have customizable hierarchies down that delineation. So an administrator is a super user. They can change the technical integrations. They can help modify user profiles. It's a really, really simple way for them to help moderate the account. Teachers, by default, have user management permissions over students. And so one of the things that I can do as a teacher is find a student and maybe view their profile. I can actually see what it is they're working on. This is not a really active account, so there's nothing here. But even if a student's trying to keep a little bit of behavior hidden from me, they're not going to be that successful. Within this account, I can delineate this user is a student. So I do want to have that level of oversight over their activities. Specifically for, and I'm probably gonna have to toggle my apologies, specifically for administrators, this is an account that I own. So I am an administrator in this environment. I do want to take a quick look at some of those school-specific features that we've spoken about. So everyone within a school environment has access to their basic profile settings. They're able to change their personal password. They can set an avatar image, the kinds of things that you'd expect. However, if you're an administrator, you also have access to some organization-wide controls. I'm going to kind of quickly pass through these, but even teachers here will understand why this is so important. Under organization info, we can set, again, those account-wide settings. So on my login page, I can set an avatar. Our logo here is this origami crane. So when a user accesses my Padlet for Schools environment, this is the first thing they'll see. For you, this will be your school mascot, a thumbnail that associates with your department or your university, your school, something that makes it recognizable that folks have navigated to the correct space. And then this is also where we can start to play with access options. Username password is not the only way to get into this account. We are pre-configured for a few different SSO experiences. Google and Microsoft are both available right out of the box. The way this works is we just look at your email domain if you're using a Google Workspace or a Microsoft ADFS system. And if a user shares your organization, we can pass them through very easily. We can also create accounts automatically, although some of the other options are better adept at handling role-based provisioning. So if you are a Clever or a ClassLink district, it will know that you're a teacher. And so if it automatically creates your profile, it'll give you the teacher role. It's pretty handy and it requires a lot less user management, both on your parts and on your administrators. Clever and ClassLink also support rostering, which is a really, really big add for those school administrators out there, but even for the teachers. You don't have to worry about handling this yourself. It's going to be automatically handled at the central hub for all of the applications that your school is using. We do also support within these school environments LMS integrations. Unlike with Padlet.com, where you folks are sharing a mutual endpoint with all of the users at Padlet, a Padlet for School environment is exclusive to you. You have your own unique endpoint. And so you can take your LMS and give it the Padlet endpoint and then marry the two together. The functionality we use here is called LTI 1.3. It's the current standard for this particular install, but this makes Padlet available as an external tool within your LMS. You no longer need the browser experience, what we're looking at right here. You can accomplish everything without leaving your LMS. Any LTI 1.3 compatible LMS will work. We have some documentation for some of the big ones. So Schoology, Moodle, Canvas, D2L Brightspace, and some others. And the other beautiful thing about this is that this does also include a login token. So when you share a Padlet within your LMS using this integration, if a teacher accesses it, what they're able to do is share it with their class. And then as students need to engage with the space, either to read it or to submit a post to it, they will automatically have an account created for them. So very, very seamless. And again, this is about incorporating Padlet within your existing tool suite so that it doesn't have to be just another tool that you use. We've spoken a little bit here about students and teachers and administrators. What does that really mean? That is defined by your administrators right here. There are customizable permission sets, both for the students and for the teachers within the account. Admins are super users. They cannot be limited. They can do everything. The first thing that you ought to decide as a school is, do you want your students making Padlets at all? Student accounts in a Padlet for School environment are fully upgraded. They can also make unlimited Padlets, same as the teachers. But if you are maybe working with younger grade levels, or if you really prefer the design that students are just collaborating on environments that are owned and created by the teachers, you can enforce that behavior by disabling student access to Padlet creation. If you are going to allow it on, the next thing to look at is what type of Padlets should they make. Reach out to us for specific recommendations, but generally I recommend this: disable their ability to make Padlets that can be shared to everyone in the account. We really just want to restrict them to classroom collaboration, and disable any Padlet type that can be shared outside of the account. This will keep students within the school environment, and that is instantly recognizable as preferable to all. Within a Padlet for School account, you also have access to your own content safety standards. We use a service that we built called SafetyNet. By default, it will be tuned very, very high, and I don't necessarily think you need to tune this down. But if you are a university and you're working with subject matter that is regularly tripping these flags, you have the ability to do this. This is not Padlet.com. This is your website, and you get to describe what sort of content is permissible. What would happen if a student posted something that might trip one of these flags is that the post would not appear. A flag will appear to the teacher that owns that space, and the teacher is then able to say, no, I really don't want this on my Padlet, or yes, this is something that we're talking about. I want to approve its publication. But the rest of the class will not see it until a moderator, whether a teacher or an admin, takes action on that particular post. Finally, analytics are at the tip of your fingertips. Because you do own, as a school, all of the user profiles, we can share that data with you. These are not individual accounts anymore. They're part of the school. And so we can give you a variety of aggregate data, or just a quick downloadable spreadsheet of all user activity. The other nice thing about this account is that it is very easy to regularly collaborate with some of the same users. So when I go back here, to this environment, you will see that I, Jonathan, I'm not the creator of these two Padlets. This is Julia, my colleague. The reason I have access to these is because we are collaborators. She had no reason to hide them. Maybe we work together regularly, and so she can say, I want these Padlets to be shared with my group. This is now a school environment. These accounts are now associated, and so I can easily share my Padlets with the same group of users over and over again. Subgroups are also something that are coming soon, so you can easily define, this is my class, this is my next class, and that is going to be a regular cohort that you can work with time and time again over the course of the semester and the school year. Okay, let's get now into some of these school-specific features that some of you may know about. We are releasing these to teachers even in non-school specific environments, but they make a lot more sense within this space right here. So in a Padlet for School account, when we go to make a Padlet, this is done the way that you're used to doing it, you will see that this sidebar looks a little bit different. I want to draw your attention here to these templates. These are pretty new, and what we're doing, we're in the process of doing it still, is pre-constructing spaces for specific activities, for particular use cases in mind. So if you're a little bit new to Padlet and you're maybe not sure how to use it, my recommendation is to pop in here and look for an activity that's fun. One that I often find myself kind of gravitating towards because it's simple and showcases what I want to talk about next best is this one right here. It's a photo scavenger hunt. So as a new user, maybe I want to start an icebreaker activity for the new year. I'll select this as a really great way to just get students posting on Padlet and getting familiar with the experience. You will notice that in this new environment on the right-hand side, there's now a sidebar that has a bit more information about how to get going in this space. So there we go. The first thing I will draw your attention to is that there's an example, a completed example of all of these templates. Just look for this button right here. Clicking on it will blow open an example of one that we built for a photo scavenger hunt. So here we have something shiny, something blue. This is a super, super simple way to send the students out, explore a new school, and come back with some scavenger hunt activities. The other thing that I want to draw your attention to is after we've kind of looked at some of the ways you can share this, some ideas for how to use it, when we actually go to make a post on this Padlet, the dialog box looks different. Those of you familiar to Padlet will instantly recognize there's no textual input. You will also find that most of the attachments are missing. The only thing that we're actually left with are what is necessary to directly upload a photo to this Padlet. Now, how do we do this? You don't have to start with a template, but it's a new functionality found within your settings here. When you navigate to your posting options, which can be done right here just by scrolling down, you will see an object for post fields. What we did to construct this space was we turned off the textual body. It's hidden. Text is no longer allowed. I could optionally turn it back on. In this case, I'm going to keep it off. And then the attachment types have been customized. Again, what we did was unchecked every piece of file upload type that isn't directly necessary for taking a picture or loading one that you've already taken. You can do this on any Padlet. So if you find that your students are having too much fun with GIFs or YouTubes, uncheck them. This will turn them off and they're no longer a permissible type on this Padlet. You can also go in here and add some custom fields if you want. So maybe for this photo scavenger hunt, I want to have them describe why this photo. This will be saved as a custom field right here. And so as I upload my photo, I can now prompt my students to give me a little bit of information about why. Another way to access these templates is here. When you select your user profile and select templates, oh, it's not going to be enabled for this account. My apologies. That's something that's coming soon. We'll have to talk about it in another session. Okay, so if you're still unsure about how to get started with these templates, my next recommendation for you is to look for this icon up at the top right-hand corner. Those of you who've been paying a little bit of attention, that is, to artificial intelligence may recognize this as the AI symbol. We call this tool Magic Padlet. And if you are a teacher within a Padlet for School account, you have access to this. Students do not. What this uses is generative AI to create Padlets for you. It's just a little bit of assistive creation in the process. And there's a few different ways that you can prompt it. So right now, my preferred way, I've just been having a lot of fun doing it, is by creating a blank board. I find this very useful for creating maybe individual classroom activities. So if I have a topic that I want to discuss, and I'm just trying to think of a few different ways that we can discuss it or practice it in the classroom, this has been my go-to method. You can also go the other way with it and have a longer view. So maybe I'm a librarian or a literature teacher and I want to create a reading list on a topic. There's a pre-constructed generative AI template for that particular need. Let's take a quick look at a lesson plan because I find these fun to generate. Maybe let's pretend I teach history. And maybe let's pretend that I teach it at a 8th grade level. So we're going to talk about the Industrial Revolution. We are going to talk a little bit about some of the standards that it align with. I'm here in the States, so I'm going to use Common Core standards. And then with artificial intelligence, hyperspecificity is kind of key. It's a lot like improv. The more information that I can give it about the context of why I need this space created, the better it's going to be able to generate something. So the kinds of things I can tell it is, my students are very, very hyperactive. I need material that is going to be super, super engaging. Maybe some of my students are colorblind. Please choose, compatible imagery. In this case, I'm just going to say, I want a Padlet lesson plan about the Industrial Revolution, not to be US-centric, but let's say in the US. Then we'll talk about what we want it to address. So I want to talk about environmental impact, cultural changes, and new technologies. I could go deeper and say, I teach a bilingual class. I want this to be in both English and in French. Or maybe I want this to be entirely in Spanish. This is ChatGPT 4. It is free for school users to use. Padlet pays all the costs. And ChatGPT 4 is trained on, I'm going to say it's 216 languages. So it is pretty adept at those translations. Two things to note as this generates, it'll take about a minute to do. Um, the processor here, which is OpenAI, and yes, there will be a recording at the end. OpenAI has a subprocessor DPA in place with us. What this means is that they cannot use what you put in. All they receive is that Padlet is requesting a response to that textual input. They process it and give it to us. They delete everything. Again, the AI is not trained on this, and then Padlet gives it to you. So what I tend to say is that it is very low touch and very anonymous. This is quite safe to use, and your students don't have access to this functionality. So here we have it. We have a lesson plan on the Industrial Revolution in America, goodness, stumbling on my words there. This is a sketch that I, as a teacher, can then use to start populating some materials on here. So we're talking about textbook chapters. What I would want to do is edit this to maybe say, chapters 3 through 6. That's what I want you to read during this first week. And then primary and secondary sources, maybe I want to look on them. I can also use, because again, this Padlet belongs to me. If I go in here and turn on my post attribution, you will see that Johnny, myself, I'm the author of all of these posts. So I can edit them. I can add to it. I can delete it. This is just my space to use. And the intention is that it is that much easier to revise than to write. So maybe we want to find a lecture on origins here for the Industrial Revolution. I would edit this post, maybe just quickly search the web, see if there's a piece of content that's easily available. I might search for, don't know what's not populating, the Industrial Revolution. And I can find some relevant media that give my class something they can easily watch in the classroom to understand some of those origin concepts. It's about making you more efficient. I had mentioned that there's another, my preferred way of creating Padlets for specific activities within the classroom. So again, accessing that magic Padlet functionality one more time. This time, let's make a custom board. So maybe what we're going to say is I'm a 7th grade science teacher, and I want to create a Padlet about photosynthesis. I'm no longer talking about lesson plans, but again, this is still generative AI, so do be specific. I want a column about how plants generate energy. I want a column with physical classroom activities that demonstrate how photosynthesis works. I want a column with classroom discussion prompts. I want a column with homework activities. I'm going to leave my spelling error in there because ChatGPT will recognize it. But again, this will generate a new space. So as this generates, there's a functionality in here that we're going to look at next called a slideshow view. Depending on how you are practiced at leading your classes, you can use Padlet as these individual breakout activities where maybe everyone just has access to it and they can ask questions on a personal device, whether that's a tablet device, a mobile device. Padlet for schools, same as Padlet, can be accessed from a variety of different devices. But the way that I find it most fun to use is to supplement classroom discussion. And the way that I do that is something called Slideshow. Slideshow allows me to create a presentation-based view using artificial intelligence out of the materials that are posted. So I'll show you what that means here in just an instance. What we have here is just what we can use in a single period to discuss photosynthesis. Again, a few facts about how it was generated. If I wanted this to go more in depth, I could say I want 10 facts. I want 10 classroom activities. Sometimes it will give more, sometimes it will give less, that is, if you fail to prompt it. Then we have some activities that our students can actually perform. So make this a little bit livelier, get the students involved. We've got some discussion prompts to, again, let's actually get them talking about this. They've got some information, some facts, and they've performed some activities. Now let's get them actually practicing discussing these. And then homework activities. As with the lesson plan, I own this. So if I just want to use one or the other, it's easy for me to delete. Now, what I was talking about with the slideshow view is this. If I did want to share this out to my students and have them participate on this Padlet, I probably don't want them adding their own custom classroom discussion prompts. What would likely be preferable to me is creating an individual breakout space for those students. So what we'll do is create a discussion area. I'm then going to make this Padlet reader only. So now no one can make a post. They can only view the posts that I have made. However, I'm going to use a breakout link to give them writer permission within the discussion area. So now I have a space where the students can use all of the multimedia that I've allowed. Remember, with post fields, I can delimit that. If I don't want them finding YouTube videos or Spotify playlists, I can restrict that. But they can ask all of their questions here. So in an environment where I'm using a digital whiteboard maybe behind me to actually present this Padlet, what we can do is something like this. Using this icon, this is the slideshow view, I can turn this instantly into a presentation. We can now, as a class, go through this together, just like I would any Google slide, PowerPoint, that kind of thing. I can use the arrow keys to lead a guided discussion. Any piece of multimedia that I've embedded here will remain embedded. So if this were a YouTube video, an audio recording, a PDF snapshot of a portion of a textbook, this can still be used right here. I can scroll through this, view it together. It's not going to turn this into a stock slide. But something you'll notice down here, I've got 14 slides, right? If I were to go in here and maybe, let's pretend I'm a student, just make a very clever contribution to this Padlet, this is my discussion, you will notice that I now have 15 slides. These are linked. These synchronously update as my students ask questions. So as I get towards the end of our classroom activity and we finish presenting the homework that we want them to address, what we get to is the student discussion area, which is being populated with those student questions in real time. So I never need to take this presentation down off the screen. My students can collaborate with these materials. They can view them in their own time. But as facilitator of this talk, I can guide it using the slideshow view so that we're all talking about the same thing at the same time. It's a very powerful way to help keep your students on track. I do want to quickly address one other item here is the submission request links, very similar to a breakout link. However, the utility would be more if you need like an anonymous suggestion box, or maybe you're doing a pop quiz. So let's maybe say I want to have a student analysis section. I want them to tell me what it is that they learned today about photosynthesis. I can use a submission request link to allow them to post to that section, or rather to this Padlet, without being influenced by each other's works. I can also allow this to be anonymous. So I spoke before that you, within a Padlet for Schools environment, you should not see anonymous users because everybody does have a profile. If I did want a little piece of anonymity, this is how I would allow it. Turn this off, and then my students can post anonymously. Then what I would do after I've shared this link is define what happens after submission. I can choose that once they've posted, they can then see the Padlet, or maybe I never want them to see it. Maybe I only ever want them to see a confirmation page, and this is the customizable message that the students would then see. So it's just another way that I can share these materials and invite my students to participate in a slightly different format. Okay. So Padlet for Schools is intended specifically for those school use cases. When we're working with students, we want their material to be an environment that is owned by the school. The intellectual property of everything that exists within this account is the owner of the account. It is the belonging of the owner of the account. And so they're able to define a lot better what we do with it. As I mentioned, you can have access to that student data within the school environment to see what the students are working on. You can also define what you want to have happen after a teacher graduates. If the school administrators are comfortable with teachers taking those Padlets with them, that is definitely something we can facilitate. As far as Padlet is concerned, what you build belongs to you, and we do want to help you keep it. If the school ever wants an exportable copy of materials in this account, we can give it to you in a readable format. JSON is typically our preference, however, we've done others. If the school chooses to delete the environment, we're also able to help with that. In terms of data privacy, I think you'll find that we are very data privacy conscious. The information that we will ever record is only what is necessary for the functioning of the website. So for instance, if you're using the LMS, you give your LMS permission to give us the information we need to create a profile, which is just the name, the email, and the role. But if the school ever does want the data to be deleted, we do that in accordance with what we consider the highest international regulatory standard, which is GDPR. 30 days after deletion request, all materials are gone. And the methodology for that, if you're ever a nerd like me and interested, is cryptographic erasure. Okay. So the next question I want to ask, or have you ask, is how do you decide if a Padlet for School account is the right fit? Um, what we often find when we're talking with teachers at schools is that teachers don't tend to communicate all that much about the different tools that they're using in the classroom. But when you reach out to us, that's something that we can help you find out. So we have this fun little dashboard here that we were using to help us figure out how many users that does a particular school have. This is something that you can ask us. I think Tasha shared some contact stuff in the Zoom chat. But what we have here are all of our email domains. And looking at this, what I can see is that if we were a school, we actually have a lot of Padlet users. And here at Padlet, we also have a lot of us with an upgraded account. However, we also have 8 school accounts already. A lot of times at schools, what we'll actually see is that the number will be 0. Sometimes very large districts will be purchasing for certain schools and not necessarily others. But what this dashboard is the analytics that shows, okay, the school actually does have a lot of users. So my recommendation for teachers or administrators is reach out to us. Let us help you figure out whether the usage you already have starts to justify this. Because the big benefit here is that all of these users will be combined into a central account. Padlet for Schools is only available for educational institutions. It is an education specific pricing. And so whenever you have usage that looks like this, it instantly makes sense. Not only is your district going to start to save money, but they're going to have a much better user experience. You will have access to those endpoint technical integrations. So again, single sign-on and rostering and LMS integrations, but you will also fully own the entire user experience. All the data will live in a school environment that is protected by a school requested contract. And the administrators can have oversight over everything that means. So Padlet for Schools is my recommendation 100% of the time if there's sufficient usage within the district. Okay, so we've been answering questions as we go. I'm gonna just open up the audience here if anyone has some additional specific questions. We are recording this. We will be passing out a recording after this. Tosh, where will that recording live? Are we just able to send it to the current attendees?
Yes. Thanks for the presentation, John. It's been great. Everyone can find the recording at this link that I'm going to put in the chat here. This link is basically, we'll have the recording of all of our past sessions. We've actually done 3 other sessions that have been great. We had a live Q&A. We had a Padlet for Beginner session and a new feature session. So you can access all of those recordings as well as this one. from padlet.link/webinars. That is the URL that you can go to, and that actually links to a Padlet. So great use of Padlet there. I've been seeing in the chats a lot of questions about kind of pricing or the amount of users. For all those questions, just email us at memberships@padlet.com. And there's really options for one to up to your entire district for Padlet. So pricing is very dependent on how many teachers are actually using Padlet. We've changed our pricing model a little bit in how we license accounts. So we'll actually just license everyone in your district, but we'll basically lock you in at a price of who has been using Padlet in the past. So we want people to use Padlet in the future, but we'll really only charge for who has been using Padlet. And John can add a little bit more to that maybe if you want, but
Yeah,
super
definitely.
flexible licensing model we have.
Yeah, so our creative intention there is that you're never paying for a user that isn't already using Padlet. We don't want you to pay for licenses that you're not going to use. And we've worked with a lot of different procurement teams at the district level and sometimes the department level. What we often see is that, teachers and purchasers are sending out like Google Sheets, like, hey, is this a tool that you use? And it's confusing and it's inexact. We try to make it very easy for you. What we do is license for the number that we already know that you need, but open it up to everybody. So we will onboard the entire school, all of the teachers, all of the students, but not charge you anything extra. At a renewal period, what we'll do is review your analytics with you, which you also have, to help you figure out, okay, we licensed for 15 teachers, we ended up having 75. How many of them really used it? And it's a conversation. We'll help you look at it to figure out, okay, it really seems like our usage, our needs is 65, but you never end up having to overpay. Really will help you pay as little as possible for your estimated usage. And then, yes, the webinar link, we welcome you to share. It's available to anybody. We are also doing these webinars at a pretty regular cadence. Tosh, where can they find the next one? Is that going to go out to the app?
Yep. So the next webinar can be found in that link, padlet.link/webinars. You can see the recording. And John, if you want to just bring that link up, I put it in the chat there.
Sure thing.
You can see, I can kind of walk through that. Good question about how to see your district's usage of Padlet. To see your district's usage of Padlet, just email us at memberships@padlet.com. Also, if you want to just put in the comments your name, you can directly message us. Just message the host and panelists. Just put your name there, and I'll jot down your name, and we'll send over your stats and usage and get you started there. So either email us at memberships.com, or if you want to just put in the chat here your name, and I will make note of that and send over your stats so we can kind of get the ball rolling. Awesome. Thanks. I see some comments coming in here. And John has shared the Padlet webinars link, so you can see the Padlet for Schools webinar is actually right now. Next Thursday, we have a What's New on Padlet. That is a great webinar that Yasmin had done and demoing tons of features. So that's great. We have planned a digital citizenship session as well. More on that to come. And then lastly, in February, the last one this month will be on the 28th, Padlet for Beginners. If you go right on the Padlet, you can see some of the other past sessions as well. So there's the recording of the live Q&A. There's What's New on Padlet recording and Padlet for Beginners. You can also see on that Padlet some of the presentations that we've done, as well as the feedback survey that we'll get to you in a minute. So to stay posted on the Padlet Academy sessions, just I would recommend maybe just bookmarking or favoriting that Padlet so you can be notified, as well as turning on notifications for new posts in that Padlet. If you follow the Padlet, you can do so yourself, and then you'll be notified when there's new recordings. So just keep entering in the chat if you'd like those stats sent over, and we can get those to you later today. Um, I see some people coming in the chat, so that is great. Awesome, John. Back to you here as I reply to some of these people in the chat.
Perfect. Well, Mohammed here asked a very interesting question about student feedback on writing. Um, so this is a use case that I've had a little bit of fun with. And the way that I would accomplish that is with a submission request link. So his specific question is, he does not want students to see each other's work, but he does want them to submit their creative writing. I would make a Padlet. You can customize the format. You can have a column. You just leave it in a mural format like this, and then use the link privacy to make this particular private Padlet maybe private, maybe lock it with a password. I just don't want this to be accessible to the users, right? Then what I would do is utilize that submission request link that I briefly shown before. So with this link, I can customize the behavior. I do want to see each student's name on their post because I want to know who's done each submission. But I do not want them to actually see the Padlet. So what I want is for the after a post that they'll see a confirmation page. The confirmation page would be, I don't know, essay received. When a user uses the submission request link, and I'm going to open an incognito window, so I'm seeing this the way that a student would. Oops, I am requiring that login. In this case, I'm going to have to turn it off because I do not have a student profile in this account. Oh, actually, that's related to my options here. There we go. Let me just make this as accessible as possible. It's difficult to do when I'm using incognito because I don't actually have an environment. What am I doing to myself? So there and there. So that should now be accessible. Here, what the students will see is this. There will be a post dialog box. I can then submit my essay. I could just maybe drag and drop the Word document, a Google Sheet, or just copy and paste the text. It is, again, multimedia. They will submit their essay, hit submit, but they will never get to see the Padlet. So they will not see each other's materials. They'll just get whatever confirmation message you customized, and then I, as the teacher, have access to everything. So that is what I would use for that particular functionality. And then, yes, a lot of folks are asking for their district usage. In the interest of not making your school administrators upset, I don't want to pull that up in a webinar format. But if you request it, that is definitely something that we can send over.
And I'm seeing a lot of questions too about how do we qualify active teacher? How do you qualify how teachers are using Padlet? So we
Sure.
actually, yeah, what we do is look at your usage over the last year. You can see John has the Padlet pulled up. What's really flexible about our licensing and pricing models, though, is that as you get started, you may have a little bit less active users, so you can actually get locked into a lower price point than you would if, say, everyone starts using individual accounts. There's a lot of usage, and then you want to go with the Pilot for Schools account. So getting started early is definitely better.
And then with any new Padlet for School account, so when you make the big announcement that a new tool is available, what will often happen is that a lot of folks will pick it up and practice with it. We don't want you to pay for those users if they don't incorporate it into their classroom over the course of the year. So there's a lot of different ways that we look at it. We thought the simplest was just to look at the last 9 months instead of the last year. So we don't consider any user that's used it in the first 3 months of a subscription active. This way, everybody gets the chance to experiment with it to see whether it is something that easily incorporates with the way that they're already teaching, but the school is not penalized for that degree of experimentation. And yeah, please keep your questions coming.
And I have put in the chat the Padlet Academy survey. So as you guys are um, kind of wrapping up here, feel free to put in some information there. There's just asking for your name, email, and provides us some good feedback on how to make these sessions better. There's also an option there if you would like someone from our team to contact you about Padlet for Schools. So just click that yes option if you are um, if you want us to contact you, and we'll reach out. I have made note of the people in the chat who had asked for stats, and I'll send those over later today. Question about people who want to use Padlet for free. Go ahead and you can just go to Padlet.com and make a free account. Now, with the free account, you're limited to creating up to 3 active Padlets. So that's another benefit of that Padlet for School subscription is that you can create unlimited Padlets. Honestly, probably the top benefit, being able to create unlimited Padlets for you and all of the teachers in your district. But if you want to just try out Padlet for free, just go to Padlet.com, make a free account. Make sure to mark yourself as a teacher when you sign up. So then you'll have some of these school-specific features that John showed. Unfortunately, with a free account, not all of them are available, but you will have access to Magic Padlet and a few of the other features John showed.
Indeed. Magic Padlet being the generative AI functionality that assists you in the creation of Padlets.
Suzanne has
Yes,
a nice question. John, do you want to take that one?
indeed. If you navigate to your Padlet dashboard and select this icon right here, this is the gallery, which is a really handy way to see all the different types of Padlets that you can make. So we've kind of converted this to templates, but this is a quick picture of a bunch of the different ways that you can use Padlet. I would say that the other resource I do like to share is this, and I can drop a link to this in the chat as well. This is a collection of real-world Padlets that we've sourced permission to reshare. So it's organized in terms of Padlets for teacher communication. These are read-only Padlets where the intent is not the students are collaborating. So again, we've got reading lists from librarians. We have classroom Padlets that are more like syllabus and format. Student interaction is not the desired result. Then we have some examples of student collaboration Padlets. So these are, again, teacher-created spaces, but the teachers here did want to open the floor. So students are invited to comment, make their own posts. These are collaborative in nature. And then finally, these are student-created Padlets. These are actually created by the students and then shared out. So one of my favorite examples of it here is this civil rights group project. This was actually done during the COVID digital learning experience. We have a color that associates with each of the students. So you can see which student is responsible for which post. And at the very bottom, you have a common works cited page. So remember that students, if you allow it, can also make their own Padlets. And so assigning them the responsibility to create a breakout group like this is definitely something that you can do. And then Tosh was mentioning it earlier, but yes, if you elect as a teacher when you are registering, we're able to turn on some of the school specific features for you. What you lack would be stuff like rostering, administrative single sign-on. Again, those do require a unique endpoint, so a school ecosystem that we can help you direct your login flows for. When you're using Padlet.com, you have to share that endpoint with all users, and so it's not something that we can offer you. Great questions so far. Again, keep them coming if there's something we can help you with. If you are unsure how you registered as a user, you would be prompted relatively recently, I think in the last 3 months. The next time you log in, if you haven't logged in some time, you'll be prompted to choose, what type of user are you? I believe, let me just check something real quick. Bear with me. I believe that's also something that can be modified. Where is my mouse cursor? Within your individual user profile settings. If not, you can email us, and that is something that we can help you reassign. Yes, within your basic info of your settings. So navigating to this link that I'm dropping here in the chat, you can choose what type of user you are. Teacher or school staff would provide you access to some of those school-specific features that are supported for individual users.
All right, if anyone has any last questions, add them to the chat now. I will put in the survey for the one last time. So make sure you fill out that survey as that provides some helpful information for us moving forward. Another question from Tracy. Is there a way for students to submit presentations similar to like PPT in Padlet?
In Padlet, yes. If you are your students are creating Google Slides or PowerPoint, those can be directly uploaded to a Padlet. However, the slideshow view is a native functionality that does accomplish that. So that is this icon you can see on the right-hand side of my screen. Once you've created a Padlet and have the materials in there, selecting this will instantly generate a deck of slides out of all of the posts on this page. We now have a 33 deck of slide deck. You can play this exactly like you would a PowerPoint. And if you want your students to do this in their own Padlet and then submit it to your Padlet, so you have a collection of all of them on a single mural board, you could ask them to export this as a PDF. That will do, I think, Tracy, what you're hoping it will accomplish. Alternatively, you could just copy the link and then you could embed the web playable version. You own this, and we have a lot of different publication mediums on offer.
And lastly, I will just put in the chat one more time the link to all of the resources, the past recordings we've done, as well as a recording of this session. Once the recording is ready, it should be a little bit later this afternoon. So thank you everyone for joining. John, anything more we want to add in before we sign off today?
If you are curious about Padlet for schools, please just reach out to us. We can help you figure out whether this is something that already makes sense for your schools. We can also help you discuss with your district administrators whether those are the legal procurement team and they need to know about contract paperwork, school tech admins, and they need to know about security attestations or some of these technical things. We speak the language. My recommendation is let us get in touch. We can satisfy any question that they have, and it really is not your responsibility. If you have interest, just reach out and we can help you explore Padlet for schools.
Awesome. And we will see some of you all for the next few webinars coming up. Thank you all for joining. And as always, if you have any more questions, if there's anything we can help out with, just get in touch with us at hello@padlet.com and we'll be able to help out. So thanks for joining, everyone.
Cheers, folks.